Um, Welcome to the May 10th, 2022 ETAC meeting. My name is Brian Germain, and I am the chair of the Environmental and Transportation Advisory Commission. We have 5 items on the agenda, including the consent calendar. Recording secretary, could you please start the meeting?
Yes, sir. The meeting is now being recorded.
I would like to call this ETAC meeting of May 10th, 2022 to order at 4:01 p.m. Recording secretary, please call roll.
Vice Chair Manager,
Present.
Chair Germain,
Present.
Commissioner Greensides,
Present.
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Present.
Commissioner Romero. Present. And Commissioner Welker indicated that she would join the meeting in about 15 minutes. You have a quorum.
Okay. Would Commissioner Greenside please lead the Pledge of Allegiance?
Wherever you are and with the flag, turn, take the flag and place right hand over your heart and receive. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Greenside. Recording secretary, please describe the way the public can access the virtual meeting.
This meeting is being live streamed on the City of Santa Ana portal, www.santahana.crimegov.com/public/portal. If anyone would like to provide a public comment, they may do so in person or on the City of Santa Ana portal, again, www.santahana.crimegov.com/public/portal. The opportunity to speak is going to follow the next comment. If you wish to speak, please select Zoom and icon to let us know you would like to speak. You will be called upon by the name you entered. If any members of the public are present at this in-person meeting, please be sure you have completed a speaker card and then hand it to me. You will have 3 minutes to speak whether you are in person or online. We will alert you in both cases when your time is up.
Moving on to public comments on agenda items or non-agenda items. Recording secretary, does anyone wish to speak?
There are no speakers present from the public.
Calendar items 1, 2, and 3. Recording secretary, do we have any commissioners absent to be reflected as an excused absent?
There have been no commissioners that have commented and contacted me requesting an excused absence other than Commissioner Welker, who indicated that she would be 15 minutes late.
Okay, at this time, we'll be seeing Commissioner Welker probably come through in about another 10 minutes or so. Is there a motion and second to approve the consent calendar, items 1, 2, and 3? Commissioners who make the motion and second, please announce your name prior to the motion and second. Thank you.
This is Commissioner Manager. I move that we approve items 1, 2, and 3.
Commissioner Greenside, I'll go ahead and second that.
I'll take account. Chair Germain,
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Vice Chair Manager,
Yes.
Commissioner Greenside,
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Romero,
Yes.
and Commissioner Welker has arrived. Can you go ahead and state your vote for consent calendars 1, 2, and 3, which is the minutes, the last minutes, excused absences, and the recording secretary report. Commissioner Welker?
And I vote
Okay, you have the motion passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Recording Secretary. That closes consent calendar. Moving on to business calendar, item number 4 is well 40 status update. Mondo Fernandez, Senior Civil Engineer for Water Resources, will introduce the item, and Assistant Engineer Fallon Franklin will present the item to the commission. This item is informational.
Hi, how are you? Good afternoon, all of you. Well, we're going to talk about Wall 40 treatment facility. Wall
Please
40,
identify yourself.
sorry, I apologize. Armando Fernandez, City of Santa Ana, Senior Civil Engineer, Water Resources. Today we're going to talk about Wall 40 treatment facility. Wall 40 is one of our 20 active wells that we have in the City of Santa Ana that got impacted by PFAS. So, 2 years ago, when this newly detected substances were found in the local water, underground water, due to previous practices by 3M and others, they came with materials to help out, such as repellents or non-stick, pans and so forth, materials. And I'll have Fallon can further elaborate regarding that. So once these substances were found, the Orange County Water District took the initiative to help out and how we're going to treat this, the chemicals found in our underground, so we can keep on pumping potable water to our residents. So with that in mind, this presentation will be going to talk about Wall 40 treatment facility. I'll have Fallon Franklin, one of our assistant engineers, discuss a little bit further.
Thank you so much for that introduction. My name is Fallon Franklin and I'm an assistant engineer, and this is a presentation on the Well 40 wellhead treatment facility. Next slide, please. So, background on Well 40. Well 40 was constructed in 2006 and is located in Mabry Park. In 2020, the city found traces of per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, otherwise known as PFAS, in the well. As a result, the city removed the well from service on November 11, 2020. Next slide. So what is PFAS? PFAS is a group of over 3,000 man-made chemicals. It's often used in consumer goods like nonstick pans, as Armando mentioned at the beginning, and cosmetics. There are also industrial products that contain PFAS, like firefighting foam and pesticides. PFAS is known as the forever chemical because it does not break down under typical environmental conditions. Next slide, please. So, Well 40 PFAS findings. The city has been reliant on imported water to feed the upper zone well where Well 40 is located. Because we took Well 40 offline, we still have to provide water to the people, and so our imported water sources in that zone, specifically MWD connection SA6, is being used to feed that zone. So the city is collaborating with Orange County Water District to remove PFAS from the well by designing and constructing a wellhead treatment facility. Construction for this facility has commenced in May. Next slide, please. Thank you. So here is the construction schedule currently in place. So our design was completed in 2021. An award for the project was received in February, and so we began construction in May, and we hope to complete the project by December 2022 or February 2023 at the latest. The total cost, which will be funded entirely by OCWD, is $3.4 million. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the treatment facility construction, what are we doing to get rid of PFAS in the water? We will be utilizing state-of-the-art ion exchange system to remove the PFAS from the water. In addition, we will also be increasing the site security, improving the lighting at the park, and installing surveillance cameras, as well as a perimeter wall and a gated entrance. We will also be including community outreach and educational opportunities, utilizing collaborative efforts between the Water Resources Division and Parks and Recreation. So what are the benefits of the treatment facility? Well, for one, we will not only be removing PFAS, but all constituents of concern, potentially. So those are long chain PFAS, short chain PFAS, PFOA, PFOS, and so on and so forth. In addition, we will prevent reliance on imported water, thus saving on costs for the consumers. A positive thing is that OCWD, once again, will pay 100% of the capital costs for the construction of the facility. And in addition, OCWD will be instrumental in providing community outreach and environmental review, construction, and in addition, will be supplying 50% of the cost of operation and maintenance for the facilities for 30 years. So this is the general location of where the site is. It's in Mulberry Park. And then if we go to the next slide, this shows a closer view of well 40 and where it currently is. And at the top, right next to the parking stalls, is where we will be installing the PFAS treatment facility. So this is a rendering of the PFAS treatment facility. There are the ion exchange vessels. We've got a set of 4 vessels, and it's a lead and a lag system. Here's a closer view. So you can see the perimeter wall, the entrance gating, and essentially the entire setup of the system. Here is a view from a ground level of how it will look in the park. And here is how it will look at night, illuminated as well. So this is Fullerton's ion exchange system as an example of how large the vessels are potentially. So they can be around 15 feet in diameter. And that concludes the presentation. So I would like to open it up for any questions, if we have any.
This is Commissioner Benninger, and on the last picture, I find it very interesting that they used the word lead, talking about their import.
It's lead.
Pardon?
It's lead.
It's lead. I read that as lead, I'm sorry. That's my Polish background, thank you.
Yeah, so one of the tanks serves as a lead and then the other one serves as a lag.
What is the life of one of these tanks? How long does it take to contaminate?
As far as ion exchange, so this is new to us. I mean, the first one that in Orange County is the Fullerton, the one that is installed. And what we hearing right now is about 9 months before we have to change the resin on these vessels. So until they do the breakthrough, that's when we have to replace it. But we don't have that expertise yet, or the clear knowledge as far as how long it's going to take, because it depends on volume too. How much volume you move from the water that you pump, and also regarding the water quality that you might have at this particular site.
Okay. Next question is, how do they believe the contamination got into the water table?
How did the contamination get into the water table?
Correct.
Well, it's percolation.
Mhm.
So those industries that are the contaminant industries, and one of them is 3M, the upper, in the riverside area, to the river, those waters that dump into the river, they start percolating until they made it to a basin here in Orange County. So that's the recollection information that we have of how this chemicals got into our system.
Gotcha. Also, the charge to regenerate, do you know what that charge is, or how much you're looking at?
The charge for
The cost to regenerate?
right now, I don't have that, top of my head. Because the Orange County Water District is taking the lead and they buying in volumes because there's maybe like over 80 wells, in Orange County that got, affected by this contaminants. So they're buying in bulk, and with the price changes that we're having right now, trying to procure, materials and so forth, that's a dynamic price change. So I don't have that in front of me.
Let me tell you a little bit about my background. I worked for Dow Chemicals, so I'm very aware of the climate change beads and how they're made. And in some places, you could regenerate them. And I don't know where the county buying it from, where they tend to regenerate these beads or not. They allow you to recycle. Obviously, regenerating beads don't last as long as fresh, but that is one way to cut down costs. Because as soon as costs will eventually come to the city, eventually.
Half of the operation, the cost of the operation would be paid by the city, the other half would be paid by Orange County Water District for 30 years.
Anybody else?
Commissioner Greenside's here. And I might have missed it, but is the water that's processed in the facility going to be used for potable water or non-potable?
It is potable water, yes. This water is going to meet our standards, that we have, the state regulations, for potable water.
Thank you. And then how much, I know you mentioned the width of it is 15 feet in diameter, but per day, how much water is it going to be providing?
This well pumps around 5 to CFS, so it's about 3,500 GPM gallons per minute. So we talk about it like there are 4 vessels, 2 are inactive and 2 are in the lead line, what we call. So 2 are active, 2 are inactive, and whenever we have to do maintenance, we change. So each set will produce, we're going to be able to sustain, that production for this particular well.
And so then in years of drought, do these stay functional even in years of drought?
Yes, this wells that we have throughout the city, well, we have working close to the 2 zones, like the upper zone and the lower zone. The upper zone is north of the High Freeway, so we have a series of wells that serve that part of town. So our system, depending on the usage or the volume, the demand that you have as, the residents here in Santa Ana, that's whatever facility we can turn on. So it's fully automated, the system that we have. So depending on the pressure range that we have set, so either one or another facility takes over, but this potential wells that can run for a year or 2 at a time, 80. So like I said, it depends on the demand and all the other facilities that we have active working, if they're not on maintenance or not for any particular reason. So that's how we can compensate for it.
Thank you for that. And I noticed this location of where this is, so I actually ironically wound up in this park this morning, walking a dog with some friends who have a dog there, and I thought there was bathrooms in that facility and there wasn't, and everything was blocked up by construction anyway, so it sounds like the construction's going well. But in any event, my question about the facilities is, 1, are they loud? And 2, why do they need to be illuminated at night?
The illumination process, they don't have to be. Those are the rendering that we show. We have lights because in case of event is an emergency, one of our staff needs to provide, go and see if anything happens with one of the tanks. You have your lighted and you can work if it's during the day. So it's mostly for maintenance purposes and anything else. Those can be turned off, during the night. They don't have to be on.
Cool. And I only asked because I know it's right up against a bunch of residential apartments, so I wouldn't want the lights to be ruining people's sleep patterns. And additionally, in regards to location and PFAS in our water, do you know if there's any effect of freeways adding to the amount of PFAS that winds up in our water system?
Freeways?
Yeah, because this particular park is right at the crux, right before, that particular neighborhood is between the 5 and the 55. And so I didn't know if there's any effects of freeways upon PFAS entering the water system.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
I have one more question, but I'll just leave it there. Thank you very much for that.
I do have just a question, because obviously concern is the water system, and unfortunately, there are some evil people wanting to contaminate our water system. Is there any motion detections or something tell you if someone's jumped the fence at night in this area?
Just like any other facility that we have, our facility there are protected with motion sensors and alarms that if someone enters the facility, we would get alarms 24/7. So they would be, the operators in our facility would be notified 24/7 if an intrusion happens to our facility. So that is included in this design.
Yes, through our SCADA system, when the bill had it, and he was far away for a long time. So, through this, the devices, mechanisms, we get alarms of any intrusion to any of our size facilities. Most of our critical assets or, doors or hatches where, you think somebody can, introduce something or come into contact with it, we get those alarms, at every 5 to 10 minutes, we get one. And we have staff, they, on call, that they respond to those.
Now, Commissioner Ranger, I'm saying, I see well 40, does that mean we have 40 well sites, or how do we number?
We number our wells at 1, 2, 3, and so forth. And it doesn't mean that we have 40 wells, but we did start with well number 1. Over the years, we lose some of these wells due to age. So we do have right now is 21 wells, with the highest number is 41. So
yes,
yeah.
We have 20 active wells and one that is down to well 16, and we have planned 2 additional wells coming up in the next 2 to 3 years. One actually is, we're going to start doing hopefully within the next few months. We call it the Washington well. So, adding to the bills regarding the numbering, that was the chronological numbers it was used in the past. So we just kept using the same numbers. I mean, not the same numbers, but just increasing the number.
And I'm assuming, as Commissioner Ranger, I'm assuming that well 40 is the only one that we see to be attached to that?
No, we do have other wells that are in the plans to receive this type of treatment. So well 40 was ideal because of what it is right now and the need for the water system. In the north zone, we've lost 3 wells, 40 more, well 40, well 27, 28, and possibly 38.
38.
So we did lose quite a bit of well capacity in the north zone. Well 40 was ideal for the treatment because of what it is and the capacity of the well. So to answer Commissioner Greenslide's question on how much water, 5 CFS, 5 cubic feet per second, will provide us 2.7 million gallons a day of treated water. That is water that we lost due to this contamination that we were very happy to gain back.
And just adding to what the bill mentioned regarding, it was a strategic, for us to pick up well 40 is to be the first party to be rehabilitated. Why? We have only one connection with Metropolitan Water District on the upper zone. If we lose, that connection, definitely we're going to have issues providing water. So for us was to bring one of the wells as soon as possible so we can have 2, in 2 points of, water supply for our community on the upper zone. So that's, a strategic decision that it was made. Well, for the city, for us to better serve the needs of the community.
Commissioner Greenside, I remember my last point, which was, can we install a sign for anybody who is in the park, visiting the park, so they can know what the facilities are and then kind of explain what's happening there and how it feeds into our water system?
I'll leave it up to a public works director.
Sure, that goes both ways. We can definitely introduce an educational element to the installation. However, at times when you identify a site as a drinking water site, then you may introduce some unwanted activities or intentions toward that facility. So we can go either way with that. So.
Thank you, understood.
Hi, Commissioner Romero. So will there be some communication possibly with nearby businesses or businesses throughout the city to encourage eco-friendly products? And in your community outreach, is that also something you can communicate about how people can go for those eco-friendly products versus, like all of these products are terrible for our water. So I'm wondering about that communication.
As far as, I don't want to take it upon myself to communicate regarding your choices as a consumer, but there's something that I'm not sure if the city can actually, something, making those choices, correct? For us, for us from the PR perspective, we communicated to the community. We had like 2 engagement meetings, letting them know exactly, we brought up, this presentation, letting them know, like, this is what's happening, this is what, how this chemicals got introduced into the, into our groundwater table, and this is what we're facing with. The unfortunate part, I don't think, the remediations are fast enough, and as more available technologies, what they call them best available technologies come into play, we're going to start finding more of this type of chemicals, in the groundwater. So, from our perspective, we treat it to the best available information that we have. From the consumer perspective, I don't think we can make an opinion out of it. I apologize for that.
That's a great question, Commissioner Romero. We can reach out and maybe develop and frequently ask questions about PFAS and how we can avoid the use of PFAS products. But PFAS these type of chemicals are prevalent in our society, and it's used in things like Scotch Guard. Even this plate here may have some PFAS in it because it is a water repellent chemical that is used in food packaging and everywhere else for firefighting is being used right now. I know that some of the PFAS products is being banned right now, has been banned. So we can consider maybe coming up with some kind of educational pamphlet from the city to bring awareness to PFAS and how consumers can prevent or have a second alternative, rather than using these type of products that have them. We can consider that, absolutely.
And keep in mind, this is fast developing, and this is new. It's not in the last few years, where the chemicals have been identified as such. So there's a lot of more stuff coming from the federal, state level, as far as, what's going to be taking place. So we'll keep an eye on it and do whatever is to our best abilities, to keep people informed and communicate.
Yeah, because we need water, and if our water isn't healthy to drink, at least promoting or encouraging that kind of use, the eco-friendly use, maybe even in these meetings, and anything counts. And are there any health repercussions if people don't know that what PFAS are, and if it's in the water, maybe you drink it? Do you know anything about that?
As far as that, I don't have no information that we have heard regarding any potential risks or hazards. But like I said, this is pretty new. More information is going to follow. New studies are being done, daily. The Orange County Water District is taking a big initiative doing that. I know they have labs that are testing, for other chemicals too. So if we hear anything, so we're definitely going to bring it to the table. But as far as, being fully compliant, this potable water is fully compliant, for drinking purposes. The city took the initiative to turn this wells off, just to the nature to deal with, the treatment, what it's going to entail. And we have, as a city, we have enough infrastructure to supply water, to everyone. So we decided to turn them off. And there were other cities that they don't have the luxury, or they still have to be pumping, but they had to notify, their constituents, their consumers, that these chemicals were found in the water, on the water that they're drinking. But like I say, as of right now, I haven't heard that there's any potential hazards whatsoever yet. So it's game.
Thank you. This is Commissioner Walker. I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to say that I think this is a great partnership with the Orange County Water District. And I remember when I had a briefing with them, I think, when they started shutting down wells, and I didn't know what the repercussions would have been, so it's good to see that there's emerging technology that can help remediate some of the contaminants. And the fact that Orange County Water District is willing to put the upfront cost to build this and then continue that partnership for cities such as Santa Ana, I think is wonderful. And I love municipalities and special districts working together. So great job, and thank you for this update.
Thank you. Thank you, Nabil, for those support.
This is Commissioner Benjamin. You're also getting into the field of microplastics. And some of these, when you talk about Teflon, is microplastics. On the PFAS, what parts per million are we looking at that you're removing?
If I'm not mistaken, they're detecting all the way to 2 parts per billion. So technology is out there that they can detect it to the billions now. So microplastic, there's something that I've heard about it, but nothing has come to in concrete as far as how in the foreseeable future we're going to start dealing with it. But ion exchange is one of the you work in ion exchange in the resins and stuff is one of the best available technologies to remove some of these contaminants.
It definitely is. It replaces the Commissioner Benjamin. It replaces the charcoal filters. That's another way of doing it, but that doesn't have the light of the ion exchange. So this is really it's a good method. It's actually an old method, but put in a brand new way of doing it. And also what you do is that we're getting much better with detection, because you mentioned levels. You talk 2 parts per billion. You just realize how small that is that we can detect down to. And it's good that we are able to end up moving at that level.
Microplastics are part of the emerging contaminants that EPA has been studying. It takes a while for EPA to establish maximum contaminant levels and goals to achieve reduction or reduce these chemicals from the drinking water. But they're continually looking at these chemicals, and every once in a while we get a new standard for new chemicals, and PFAS was one of them. So. And once these standards get established by EPA, the state of California adopts the standards and it becomes enforceable in California. And that's when water systems like Santa Ana have to comply. And just to give you the assurance that the drinking water in Santa Ana does meet all established standards by EPA and Department of Public Health and Cal EPA. So that's not a question. In terms of meeting compliance, we do. I think in a couple of months, maybe less, we will be publishing our consumer confidence report for the water system. We do that on an annual basis, and once it's out in the street, we'll share it with you. It has quite a bit of information. There is one on our website right now for last year, if you're interested. Our newer one for last year, we're one year behind in the consumer confidence report publishing. So we published that report for the previous year. So we're working on right now the 2021 report. So that will be coming soon. But in any way, the 2020 report is on the website if you'd like to go through it. It's really interesting reading. It's got a message from me on it. So. So it is a lot of information in the consumer confidence report that I would like for you to go through it, because it's something that is very valuable, and we work really hard on making that report available to the public. Thanks.
This is Commissioner Benjamin. I want to compliment you guys on finally tackling this problem. Unfortunately, the water board has left wells in the north to school for years without being taken care of. So I'm glad to see you doing this, especially in light of the drought that we're coming into, that we'll be able to recover groundwater with dependent outside sources. Brian or Janelle, do you have a question?
Thank you. First, Commissioner McLaughlin, is there anything you would like to state or questions you would like to ask? He's muted.
Commissioner McLaughlin, you're muted if you're trying to say something. We can't hear you.
If you're speaking, we can't hear you, unfortunately.
Even now?
There we go.
Okay, now it's.
Yes, you're good.
So the PowerPoint still comes up on my screen as a master instead of the room? My understanding is that you can control taking the PowerPoint down. Thank you. Hello, everybody. All good, thank you.
The question was asked at this time. I'm going to yield my time for questions or comments to you, Commissioner McLaughlin. Did you have any
No comments,
questions or
no,
thoughts?
nothing. Thank you.
Okay, all right, awesome. This is Chair Jermaine. I wanted to inquire about the noise impact to participants in the park and the residents there nearby. I'm sure the engineering team took that in consideration, but is there like a decibel that that is set? Is there going to be a new or a new noise nuisance to the residents and those who are in the park? And engineering wise, how explain the codes and the thresholds that this new project allows?
So as far as the design project with the Orange County Water District in compliance with all environmental compliance, there's a threshold, I believe, if it's not mistaken, as to like 35 decibels for 50-foot distance to any residential sites. So we're meeting in compliance with that. So these vessels, I don't foresee they're going to be loud. I mean, there's not a lot of noise that's going to be generated to it. Just water passing through the vessels, that's pretty much it. We have an emergency generator installed, that is going to be installed on site. In the potential event we lose power to the facility. That one is going to be retrofitted with noise blankets, to mitigate any potential, like we discussed, noise attenuation, it's called noise attenuation control systems in the event, we ever need to turn it on.
Awesome, thank you for that. And one last question: is there a operation duration or time zone that these vessels will be operating in?
As far as, just going back in regards, this particular facilities, they can come on at any time during the day or during the night, depending on the demand of the area. So we have other facilities, in the same zone, but, going back, depending how much water, or is being consumed, either it goes on or off. So potentially you could run for hours, potentially you only run for an hour or two, it might be run for days. Some of our facilities that we can have on, these motors can run for years.
Awesome, thank you. With that, seeing that all commissioners have expressed their comments or questions.
Excuse me, Chairman, I have one more question. Testing of the water too. Is online testing, or will you test periodically to make sure that you don't have breakthrough?
Our water is going to be tested periodically, yes. When we get some event, there's a breakthrough stuff, yeah.
What is that probability again? What is that frequency?
I don't know on top of my head. I know we do test for other, contaminants on a weekly basis. We take samples, throughout the city. We have over 55 sampling stations. But in this particular, I can, get back to you regarding, what's going to be the frequency so that we have a better understanding.
Thank you.
All right, this is Chair Jermaine. Moving on to the next item. Item number 5. Would Gilbert Castillo, Associate Engineer, introduce item number 5, Standard Avenue Bikeway Project update? This item is also informational.
afternoon. My name is Gilbert Castillo, and I'm the acting project manager for Santa Ana Protected Bike Lane. I'm here today to discuss, the Santa Avenue Bikeway project. Next slide, please. The Santa Ana Protected Bike Lane, there's been studies done throughout the years, regarding high walking and cycling in the city. Over 4,000 pedestrians and 150 bicyclists use Standard Avenue per day. 55% of Santa Ana residents do not have access to automobiles, and Santa Avenue has a rate of 17 pedestrian collisions per mile. Many of the residents in Santa Ana rely on walking and bicycling. So what we did prior outreach activities on Santa Ana to improve, to reflect community needs that were established by various outreach events, including, working group meetings, prompts of community stakeholders to give insights and issues in the area, provide guidance for plans. Community workshops, allow community members to identify issues and provide project feedback, including July 15th, one design project workshop. Surveys and door-to-door engagements, gathering community opinions of current issues and desired improvements. We had pop-up stations where we set up events such as Fiestas Patrias and the quarterly city yard sales, including July pop-up stations. So the project background is, adopted improvement plans. The improvement plans for better bicycles and pedestrians travels along Standard Avenue are supported by the active transportation plan, the safe mobility, Santa Ana, and Central Santa Ana complete streets. The Santa Ana activity transportation plan propose actions to support walking and bicycling. The recommendations from the ATP included enhanced bicycle facilities such as buffer bike lanes, protected intersections, bicycle signals, and traffic calming and curb extensions. And that was based on the active transportation plan. The safe mobility Santa Ana uses a collision analysis to identify safety issues and solutions for a safe vision zero network. The recommendations of these plans from the Santa Ana Mobility recommended road buffets that reallocated roadway space, protected and colored bike lanes, median pedestrians, and bicycle refuge islands. The Central Santa Ana Complete Streets plan, throughout workshops, public comments, and meetings, Central Santa Ana Complete Streets identified the Standard Avenue corridor as a priority project. The recommendations for Standard Avenue included buffered and separated bicycle lanes, bike lanes, conflict striping and green bike channels, and a protected intersection at McFadden and Standard Avenue. Next slide, please. So the city secured $6.6 million that was secured for funding for design and construction of this project. Next slide. So right here, I'm going to identify three bikeway types that we will be using on Standard Avenue. The first one on the left is our barrier separated bikeway. The top one is a buffered bike lane, and the third one is a bike boulevard, which we call the shared space. Next slide, please. So the proposed project limits on Standard Avenue are going to be from Warner to 3rd Street. As you can see on that slide, it's kind of hard to see, but the blue line there is going to be our buffered bike lane from Warner to Edinger, and then from Edinger to McFadden, we'll have a barrier separated the cars from bicyclists. And between McFadden and Wakeham, we'll go back to our buffer bike lane, and then from Wakeman to Chestnut, we'll go with the barrier separated area there. And north of Chestnut to 3rd Street, which will be our bike boulevard, which we call a share lane. Next slide, please. So Standard Avenue from Warner Avenue to Edinger, as you can see on this brand. Next slide, sorry.
I'm sorry.
As you you see, we have a rendering from our consultant showing the existing condition on Standard Avenue from Warren to Edinger. Next slide, please. So our proposed, for this section of Standard from Warner to Edinger, we're going to propose a buffered bike lane. So it'll be, it was a so it was a four-way, and that's going to be two north and south direction for vehicles, and then we'll have that buffer bike lane there. Next slide. So Standard Avenue from Edinger to McFadden is exactly the same right now. It's a four-way lane, and the proposed one from Edinger to McFadden is going to be the proposed median separated bikeway, which will have our 6-foot bike lane with a raised buffer there between the bicyclists and the vehicles, with some on-site parking in this section. Next slide. So Standard Avenue from McFadden to Chestnut, that's the existing same, four-way vehicles. Next slide, please. And the proposed one is going to be a buffer bike lane between McFadden and Chestnut, which will have, direction to north and south, and some on-site parking, and the buffer bike lanes. Next slide. Standard Avenue from Chestnut to Third, that's the existing condition, and that's the two-way traffic there. Next slide, please. So from Chestnut Avenue to 3rd Street, a proposed bike lane route southbound to be Sherrill, and going northbound is going to be a buffered bike lane. Next slide, please. So based on our design, next slide, please. So based on our design here that the consultant provided, we actually were concerned about our parking, but we ended up, moving stuff around, and we additionally gained some spaces, between these segments and stuff, just north of Chestnut to Third, that's where it's, the right of way is pretty tight there, so we ended up, for site distance issues, we ended up losing 1 to 3 spaces of parking. Next slide. The drop tolerant plants is what they wanted, and we had some boards out there, and so we put a bunch of drop tolerant plants, and these are the ones that the residents in the community wanted to see out there and stuff. So next slide.
Chair Jermaine, do you have a comment? Your hand is raised.
My apologies. My audio went a little haywire for a second, but it may have been something on my end. It seems to be corrected now. Thank you.
No, my audio went crazy too.
Okay. It seemed to have lasted maybe a minute. I'm not sure what it was, but it seems to clear up now, have cleared up. So I'd like to continue.
Next slide, please. So the proposed plant palette for Wakeham to Chestnut, these are the plants that, again, like the residents and our pop-up events we had and our community outreach meetings we had, these are the plants that the residents, selected to, implement out there on this project. Next slide. So our project benefits on the design here for Standard Avenue is to increase safe mobility to downtown, 4 schools along Standard, 4 blocks and neighborhoods, new pedestrian crossings at Wakeham, and Bishop. And Bishop's gonna have a new traffic signal modification there. And, so we're gonna have extensions, bulb outs at certain intersections where we shorten the crossing for the pedestrians, especially at schools. We'll increase separation between the motorists and bicyclists, we're hoping to reduce the speed and fatal bicycle pedestrian injuries. And we're gonna add about 20 to 25 new on-street car parking spaces. And this is one that the community really pushed to us to keep, the food trucks there, between McFadden and Chestnut. There's a lot of residents that use these food trucks, so we were able to, keep those food cars there and stuff. So the food and grocery trucks are gonna stay, and obviously we'll maintain all the OCTA bus stops along the corridor. And we'll provide new landscaping and planting for this particular area. Next slide. So here's our project schedule where we're at right now. Our preliminary engineering was back in 2021, and our engineering started in summer 21. And hopefully we'll be done with all the design in winter of this year. And we're going to go to ATP to request all the construction money for it, and hopefully we'll plan start construction in April 2023. And that concludes the meeting. Any questions?
This is Commissioner Walker. When you study pedestrian crosswalks, have you looked into?
I'm sorry, I'd like to interrupt. I can't understand what you're saying. If you'd like to move to a different chair and take the microphone with you, you're welcome to do that if you feel comfortable.
Is that better?
Much better, thank you.
Of course. I know in front of my street, car racing has been a big issue. It's even taking out a whole light pole that is going to have to come down and reinstall. So I was wondering if the studies also looked at other ways to remediate things like street racing, putting in more speed bumps, and possibly looking at crosswalks. I've known a few people who've had accidents and been hit by cars in crosswalks by schools.
We do that to our traffic engineer.
Okay.
Heather, I'm Zach Kula, principal engineer for the traffic engineering section. So this specific study looked at more of the bicycle components and safety. So the request for crosswalks was evaluated, and there are some that are being added or enhanced. Even the crossings that Gilbert had mentioned, just by narrowing the crossing, it improves the pedestrian safety. It makes it easier for people to cross because it is a shorter distance, less exposure as you're crossing the street. Just the other thing I want to point out about these bulb outs and just narrowing the street, I always like to mention to people, when you drive in the desert, open areas, people tend to drive at higher speeds. Now, if you kind of look at a neighborhood street where the street is wider, the wider the street, the more inviting it is for speeding. The nature of this design, by narrowing the actual width of the street, has the inherent opportunity to reduce the speeds. I'd like to point out, like Maple, crossings, we put bulb outs. Before we put the bulb outs, I went out there and I looked at cars driving. And then afterwards, I went out and I looked at cars driving through the bulb outs. The one thing that really stuck out to me, just by observation, without taking into account the data, red lights. The brake lights were on. And that indicates cars are slowing down. So that is the inherent benefit of this type of project. It's primarily bicycle focused, but it also benefits bicycle, pedestrians, as well as the motorists, because they do tend to drive slower. There will be more congestion, visual clutter in the corridor, which promotes slower speeds.
Hello, Commissioner Romero. Do you remember what some of the concerns were from community members when they went to the forums and pop-up events?
The ones we had this year, a lot of residents were concerned about, the food trucks, and lots of parking. Those the big ones that they really question, you know, the parking, really who's parking and stuff, so as you see in the slide, you know, we actually need some parking based on the design. So those are the two main concerns that really were evident about parking.
Do you imagine there being some purchasing of property for this project?
No, no right away.
Okay.
It is within our public right away.
And I'm seeing the on McFadden and Standard, the protected intersection layout. Do you think that there will be some education on why this is there and its purpose? I know a lot of times when the infrastructure changes, people are confused and maybe angry, or may not understand fully the purpose of it. It just seems a little bit new for Santa Ana, and I would want people to understand why it's there, how to use it, and things like that.
Hi, Jason Gabriel, acting city engineer. Yes, definitely with a lot of the different bike infrastructure that we've installed, there is education that comes with that and a learning curve for the community, but that would definitely be a component of this project, is making sure that we have a way of educating the public on how to use this, because it is designed to make it, this is a design from Europe, sometimes called the Dutch intersection. It is designed to make it so that bike flow around the intersection is more protected, so that you can, if you wanted to go, say, northbound on Standard to westbound on McFadden, you're basically doing that completely within a protected bike lane. It is designated, it's highlighted rather than, you know, getting in the left turn lane with mixed flow and then making that left and then transitioning to the bike lane on the next street. So definitely there's education that's needed here, but it is something that we're excited to implement here in Santa Ana.
Because even on Bristol, I've seen people not using the bike lane. It's so perfect, and people still use the large sidewalk. So I wonder how we can encourage people to use the bike lanes a little more. Over here it said that there's one of the project benefits is to continue serving OCTA bus stops. Along Standard, I see that a lot of the bus stops could use shading and benches. So is there communication with OCTA about improving those bus stops?
So OCTA has a grant funding program, they call it Project W. It's to enhance bus stops. They look at the highest ridership stops. We're actually implementing the second phase, or a second project. We've already done one in Santa Ana. We're doing a second one currently. But each bus stop is looked at the ridership, and certain improvements are designated based on the ridership. So whether they have just a bench, whether they have a shade structure is really dictated by how much usage and utilization that bus stop is going to get. And also, we have the other program with Christie.
We do have a program as we speak to provide benches and trash cans to a lot of the bus stops that don't have it, that not necessarily shade structures. We will be looking at additional funding from OCTA for added shade structure on Standard Street. We would, I'm not sure if even the grant funding would allow for added shade structure on bus stops. In this particular one, the answer is no, but we will continue to add, like Jason mentioned, some of the bus stops that we have are highly frequented stops, and those get shade structure because they qualify for ridership. Others don't, so we have to basically prioritize where actually OCTA does the prioritization for us, and you know the top bus stops that have the most frequent ridership gets the structure first. So I know we have a project right now to add about 30 new ones coming up.
On some of the images, I saw that where there is the parking, it's closer to the curb, and sometimes the parking is, the bike lane is by the curb, and then the parking is like a protected, bike lane. Is there gonna be consistency on standard? I know that a concern of the community was keeping the trucks there, and that might change their environment there, but, I think that having the parking, protecting the bike lane with parking from the street is best. So I'm not sure how that looks right now in the design.
Right, on that one, where we had the food trucks, we did look at that, and our concern was, people don't wanna use the food trucks crossing the bike lane, so there were concerns about crossing the bike lane with bicycles and come by, so
Yeah.
they might run out, or kids, might run out, so they might get hit, so that's why we pushed in that section towards more, closer to the curb and stuff, so, in that area. But where we can, we'll put the barrier, the cars, and then the bike lane, but this, section between McFadden and Chestnut, I believe that's the only area we have it that way.
I believe there's also school drop-offs and like that, so we want to make sure that students entering next to the vehicles are up on the curb and not out of the bike.
I'm wondering if there could be, like bike working stations, on areas where there's, a lot of cyclists, you want maybe instead of like somebody is criminalized for trying to work on their bicycle on the side of the street, maybe there's a designated bike working station throughout, to start standard maybe, but just throughout the city, having those.
Then we can look into that.
Yeah, we could look into that.
They could be simple, benches, tables, and then people could just, like bike racks, people just set up there and work on their bikes versus just on the plain sidewalk, or in the way. And then the last thing is, you have, drought resistant plants, maybe looking at some of their native plants. If they're native to the environment, they'll adapt to the natural climate, so maybe looking into some of those.
Yeah, we can definitely do that, and the plan's not completely final in, so we can change it in scenarios. These are ones that, we had a bunch of them, and that's what the residents kind of wanted, that's why we wanted to implement these, but we can look at that.
Commissioner Greenside's here. I'm glad to see that there is door-to-door community engagement that took place, especially along this route. When I've done door knocking along Standard and asked folks about their experiences with renters, because it's a really renter-heavy area, and even along Standard itself, where it's not renter-heavy, it's multi-generational households. And so I'm really glad to see that this particular area is getting some of these exciting changes for bikes, especially with parking being as limited as it is, and as I just mentioned, in that area a lot, especially along Main Street. There's a lot of really low-income residents there where the landlords are not only increasing rents egregiously, but they're now also charging extra for any parking spaces, and at times not even including it in the leases. So I'm really glad to see that this particular section is going to be receiving this, but along that same vein, there's also a lot of elder senior citizens who may have disabilities. So I'm also glad to see that we're able to build in some parking and not take away parking for those who might need that. And I'm wondering if some of those parking spaces, I don't know what this might look like, but I'm thinking close to Main Street in particular, where I interacted myself with a lot of elder senior citizens who, let's turn some of those parking spots specifically into disabled or elderly parking, kind of like in the same vein how in some parking lots they have parking specifically for pregnant folks. We just put up a sign, it doesn't need to be legally binding, but a sign that says senior citizen parking, and at least people will consider it for those who live there. One constructive criticism I do have on the presentation was, I noticed it was oriented with south on the top of the page, and I was really confused at first. I was like, since when is First Street on the south of the map? But then I finally realized what was happening. And then from page to page, it would be helpful for the public to be able to keep track, for those of us who don't work with these kind of maps and documents every day, to have a legend as to what the different colors mean with each part of the phase of the projects. And so, along the same vein too, I'm excited to see that there are drought tolerant plants Just making sure that those are native species to this region. And then I might have missed it, but what was the timeline for this project?
For construct, we want to finish the design, for end of this year, so by December. And then we'll go to, CTC for allocation for construction in January of 2023. So once we get all that funding paperwork squared away, we want to start construction in April of 2023.
Okay. Do you know if the Main Street construction will be finished by then?
I hope so.
That is the plan.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that it's planned. And so, one other thing about the Class 3 lanes is kind of along the same vein of education on how to navigate new traffic patterns and spaces. The Class 3 lanes, you know, in downtown, in my experience, or in any Class 3 lane, not just in downtown, but folks don't know how to share the road with bicyclists in this town. And this is just my experience so far, but those with 10-foot wide trucks seem to be, pickup trucks tend to be the biggest jerks. And so some sort of signage would be really like more apparent to say that this particular spot you need to share the road. There might be bicyclists in front of you, slow you down, and that's on purpose. And I saw that it was a little bit less than 7 million, which is exciting, but I will mention that I've seen smaller projects with bigger budgets, so I'm kind of worried about what that might mean for whatever contractor might be getting to do the work here, especially with some of the concerns that have popped up. I know this is not related, but with Octa streetcar and the contractor issue there. And
Your concern is,
just that, will the contractor who's being chosen for this project, given, I mean, $7 million is still pretty substantial, I'm aware, but will he be educated as to some of the issues that have taken place that may be a factor for a lot of residents who will be affected by this construction?
yes, the construction, obviously the streetcar is a unique example of its size and scope. It's a citywide project with a lot of work everywhere. Most of this type of project, a lot of this you saw was a lot of striping. Really the big chunk of the work is the buffered bike lanes, but yes, and we're really just focused on the traffic improvements here, not a Main Street type project, which has a lot of different elements as well. So we would definitely work directly with the contractor to make sure that what our needs and requirements are, that he meets them.
Thank you for that. And it's just coming from a place of any contractor who's going to be receiving taxpayer dollars, residents' dollars, should be aware of the residents and community in which they're coming into. So thank you for that.
This is Commissioner Benninger, a couple of questions. First of all, my little football buddies will say, you know, slow down traffic in the city, make it harder to get through. What would you say to someone like that if we had a character in here like this? What's the purpose of all this?
It's primarily safety, pedestrian safety and traffic safety, like Zed mentioned, you know, narrowing the streets and allowing for pedestrian and bicycles, protected bike lanes, and those kind of features will enhance safety, and this is what the primary purpose of this project.
Also, on completion of this project, two things. Do we plan any public outreach to tell people how to handle, how to drive in these zones? And also, are we planning any bicycle, you know, day ride, or opening up with a bicycle ride through Santa Ana, in which people get more used to these?
Once again, Zed Kula. The bicycle ride, that will be something we'd have to look at. Maybe there's an opportunity with SAS in the future, timing-wise, for that to take place. I do think there's going to be some education that's needed for this type of project. Jason mentioned that already. But I think that ultimately, once the project is implemented, there's going to be a learning curve for everyone to learn how to use the facilities. But I think we're going to have to do our best and partner with the community and make sure that they're educated to use it properly.
This is Commissioner Benninger. I'm very much in favor of this project and the bike lanes that are going on throughout the city. There's actually a number of them going in right now. I just think I don't see people on them, so I think we need to get their confidence that it's safe and get used to using them. And also what I don't see is I don't see any bike racks going up along the way, especially where the people can stop to shop. Is there any plans for bike racks?
I'll let Zed handle that again, but I know we have some in the works.
Good question. We got over 2,000 bike racks coming in. We do have a project that's going to fund them. It's being designed as we speak, so they're going to be throughout the city. But about 2,000 to 2,500 bike racks.
And next question, will skateboards, I'm not so worried about skateboards, but the motorized ones, I don't want them to concern that. Are they going to be allowed to be these like great things?
They should be able to be riding there. We are going to be looking at our municipal code to make sure that there is no issue with that. I know skateboards technically shouldn't be there, but we do have to modify our code. And when we do that, there's going to be a comprehensive evaluation of our code to make sure that all users could be riding on the bike lane. That's the purpose. It could be someone potentially, I've seen joggers use bike lanes before. They want to be out there, that's fine. We want to make sure that it's allowed for anybody that wants to use it.
Okay, now, Brian, do you have any questions?
No, I'm fine, other than that the presentation was excellent. All the graphics were good. I took pictures of them to study them, so I didn't have to print them out, but it was just outstanding. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Chair Germain. The presentation was, I believe, was greatly presented to us. It's a nice addition to standard, passing by several parks and also schools, and just seems to it's going to implement some safety there too, reducing speeds and the caution. Striping is a tool that's used throughout cities to flag down caution, when to slow down when you have a turn or some kind of intersection. So it looks like a great project, and thank you for the presentation. At this time, we'll move on to comments and updates from staff and commissioners. Are there comments
Yes, thank
or
you, Chair.
updates?
Yes, this is Nadir Saba, Director of Public Works. I'd just like to take a moment to invite you to our first annual National Public Works Week family event. As you know, next week will be National Public Works Week. The City Council will be adopting a proclamation in recognition of the National Public Works Week on Tuesday next week during council meeting. And on Saturday, 21st, coming up, we will be having a community event in recognition of National Public Works Week. Facility tours and free food and many other activities and exhibits will be presented at the event. I would like to also let you know that we will have a pipe tapping competition where we invited the cities of, I believe, Huntington Beach and Anaheim to compete with us on how quick we can tap a water main under pressure. It's really an interesting competition that I would like for you to come and see and observe. Again, there's free food, and I would like you to invite your families, your friends, come on over. The event again is on Saturday 21st from, I believe, 11 to 2. You have a flyer, and if you need more, let me know, please. We would like to see you all there. Another comment I have, I know Commissioner Welker has mentioned Love Santa Ana during last council meeting. We have been trying to reach out to that group and we were not successful. If you could provide us with some kind of contact, email did not work. If you have a phone number, that would be great. With that, I conclude my comments.
May there be any comments or questions by any commissioners?
Hi, Commissioner McLaughlin. So if you go into the conference rooms upstairs, you see art on the wall from the Santa Ana Unified School District. And they're like pictures of maybe a huge earth moving machine, a dump truck, things like that. So maybe not this year, but perhaps next year we can involve the art department for some of the elementary schools or mid schools to come and do drawings or sketchings or some kind of interaction with our students and the public works and the things they do. Even the pumping station I thought was quite nice to be able to have artwork or things. If we do it, the kids do not have tools, so the small amount of money that it would cost to do paper and framing and supplies, but I just thought that, or even set up some kind of table for them to do it while they visit, but interchange the art with all the cool equipment. I don't know any young man that doesn't like a good dump truck. Or a picture of it. The end. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Walker, Welker, do you have any comments?
Thank you, Nabil, for trying to reach out to Love Santa Ana. I don't have a direct contact, but for this city's Love Your City initiative, but I do have other contacts more for other cities. So I'll see if they're all connected or they have someone that they know that can coordinate that for us.
Sounds good, thank you.
Commissioner Romero, a great idea for the completion of the standard bikeway project is to do an open street event. And I think we should do more of those. Maybe some cities do them every Sunday, some of them do them once a month. You know, I think that would really encourage people to bike more, to respect those who use the road, who don't drive. You know, that'd be great to do more open streets events where you close down the street and no cars are allowed. And then to comment on Commissioner Benninger, when people ask, you're slowing, when they say, why are you slowing me down, right? You can say you're a passerby, 55% of the community doesn't have a vehicle, and you just have to respect that you need to slow down just for a second. Because we want to reduce these fatalities and injuries to bicyclists and pedestrians. So I think the open streets events would be a great chance to educate on the new infrastructure facilities.
Commissioner Green, Sarge here. I want to say thank you to all the staff for putting together the excellent presentations as always. And I had the chance to attend the Dia del Nino event here at Civic Center and got a chance to meet some of the other public works staff. One person in particular, his name is Luis Vermat, and I had a pleasant conversation about wanting to change the list of allowed trees on the public spaces and making sure that all those tree species are native to the region. And so if ever you get the chance to speak with him, I'm sure he has plenty of ideas, and I'm happy to partner on that as well. And, you know, I'm still thinking about Earth Day, because every day is Earth Day, because we live here on Earth. And so one of the really cool things that happened recently because of Earth Day was, you know, planting a tree. I'm glad to say that we did that as well at the Dia del Nino, and we were handing out trees. So if anybody in the community has the ability to plant a tree of their own and make sure that it can stay generating oxygen for many decades, if not centuries to come, you know, the more the merrier. That's it. Thank you.
This is Commissioner Benninger. First of all, I'm very happy to see we have a National Week for Public Works. We forget who does all the work in the city. In line of that, I was very impressed with the presentation at ComLink about the parks and all the projects that are going on. I don't know, Bill, you want to explain the changes that are going to be occurring when Public Works is going to be picking up. But that presentation, I think it'd be great to present to ETech also, to show all the projects and show the funding's is gonna come for them and the amount of work that's being done. I think it's very impressive. With that, next time we're gonna meet is gonna be after Memorial Day. I want to remind everybody, the ending of May, we celebrate those that have given the ultimate sacrifice and praise those folks, remember them, and they're what, it's because of their sacrifice we have what we have today. So thank you.
Commissioner McLaughlin, I'm sorry. Could I suggest that maybe, since I'm Zooming and I know Brian is too, it is very hard to hear. And when the room, maybe we can put 2 chairs in between everybody or about, like, once Commissioner Welker moves, she could be heard so that we can move out so we can hear a little bit better and feel more room between. Just a suggestion. If that, Brian, I don't know if that's the reason, you're more technical, but some commissioners were so easy to hear with mask and some were not. So I was just suggesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Jermaine. I'd like to thank the presentations given by staff, and also like to thank all commissioners for sharing their views and concerns and asking the questions that needed to be asked, and so that we have more feedback to share with our neighbors. With that, I'd like to move on to any agenda items for future meetings. Do any commissioners have any requests that they'd like to itemize?
Commissioner Manager Dan, I just want to repeat, I think the presentation on the parks and the planned projects would be great for this group to hear.
Commissioner Greensides, I remember in a past meeting, it was brought up, I believe by Commissioner Benninger, that there should be proposals regarding solar panels usage here in the city. And I wanted to extend that if there's any possibility for properties which are rental properties, multi-unit properties where units are rented out and renters don't own, that there might be some sort of a partnership that the city can offer. If there are to be programs for those who own property, it should also take into consideration those who are renters and have a desire to buy an electric vehicle, for example, but don't necessarily know how to go about getting their landlord to install the facilities for such.
I'd just like to note to the commission that solar panels and we can bring in Southern California Edison to explain to us the program. However, the review of solar panels, permitting and inspections and incentives is really outside the purview of the Public Works Agency. That any information I can provide for you, I will bring forward.
At this time, I'll ask if any commissioners have any future items that they would like to put out there. Okay, seeing none. So moving on to the meeting adjournment. The next regular ETAC meeting is scheduled at 4 p.m. on June 14th, 2022. This meeting will be an in-person meeting. This ETAC meeting of May 10th, 2022 is adjourned at 5:25 p.m.